Hi everybody, we're back. I'm so happy you're with us for episode number 1 of 39 consecutive episodes of the best fishing that the Southwest and Southeast has to offer. For the next 39 weeks, we're going to be showing it all to you in both fresh and salt water, and it all begins with one of America's most popular and easy to catch game fish in the next half hour. Stay with us. The show comes your way right now.
You're watching the only program with weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
Everybody loves to catch fish. In fact, did you know that fishing ranks second on the list of America's participant sports? And there's no more prolific fish that swims in freshwater anywhere across the southern tier of the U.S. than the white bass. Now, have you ever heard of the white bass pre-spawn? On this week's episode, we're going to teach you some things about catching white bass before they go on their annual migration, their spawning run up creeks and rivers. They're about to do that, but they're not quite there yet. Now, we've already got the Nitro Z20 launched into a lake that I've been to a few times before. Just in front of me here is Canyon Lake. This lake is situated just north of San Antonio, Texas. It's 8,000 surface acres. It's very deep. In fact, it's got 130 or 40 feet of water some spots in the lake. It's very clear. It's got lots of stripers, largemouth, smallmouth bass, and tons of white bass. Now, we're going to talk about these fish just before they get ready to spawn, and some tips and secrets and techniques that you could use to put a whole bunch of them in your boat, in your fish basket, and have some hard fighting and tasty white bass for your next fish fry. While we're out doing that, we're taking you around the region for your latest fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters, both fresh and saltwater reports from lakes, rivers, and bays right where you live. So right now, we're going to get the boat up in the mouth of the river, start talking about this, give you some great information in the next half hour. Let's get it all started back at the studio with the Weekend Planner.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to a new season of Fox Sports Outdoors. The Salooner tables are predicting fair game fish activity throughout both days this weekend. Look for the prime daytime hours to begin at 1:27 on Saturday and 3:03 on Sunday, with top evening action starting roughly after midnight. Nights will feature a moon that is only 8% visible. Don't forget to set your clocks forward 1 hour when going to bed this Saturday night for daylight savings time. We're coming right back with fishing updates from around the area, plus I'll return with MLF angler Edwin Evers to answer this week's Ask the Pro question. Stay with us.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Mercury, Go Boldly, Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. Request our free 2019 fishing guide at orangebeach.com.
They're fighting over it down there. I can feel them just hitting it. As soon as it gets down fairly deep, fish are actually fighting over the bait. Hey everybody, welcome back. Well, we're out on Canyon Lake getting ourselves situated, and first of all, when we talk about white bass in the late winter, very early springtime, you need to know that 90% of the fish are going to do what we call staging. They're going to get right in the mouth of the major rivers, the major creeks that feed whatever reservoir you're going to be fishing on. So right now on Canyon Lake, we've come up right to where the Guadalupe River dumps into the main part of Canyon Lake. And we've situated ourselves right over the river channel. A lot of times these fish will gang up in big schools over the river channel. And the first thing I've noticed, as you'll see on my Lowrance HDS Live, is that we've got a huge school of fish right under the boat. So I'm vertically fishing straight up and down over the top of them. I'm opening my bail on my spinning reel and letting my bait just free spool down close to the bottom where these fish are all congregated. Once it gets down there, then I'm basically just holding it still and gently dropping it and raising it. And they're fighting over it down there. I can feel them just hitting it. As soon as it gets down fairly deep, fish are actually fighting over the bait. This is a great way to bring a kid fishing, or a elderly person that really can't do a lot of casting, reeling, that kind of thing. You just literally can drop it overboard And the thing about it is it just takes quite a while for the bait to actually get down there. So just opening that bail, and I've got about a 1/4 ounce lead jig head. And then I've got a little plastic bait on the back of it. It looks like a little minnow or a little small shad. I'll show it to you at the end of the show. That's what it's imitating. That's what these fish are feeding on. And the longest thing, the thing that takes the most patience, is letting it get down almost to the bottom in 50 feet of water. It's just hard to believe that these fish are that deep down there, but they absolutely are. Once it gets down there, then again, all I'm doing is just lifting real gently like that and dropping it back. And I'm actually at times watching my bait. I can actually see my bait on my sonar, and the fish will just fight over it down there a lot of times. There's so many of them.
Hi folks, and welcome to the first Lone Star Lakes of the 2019 season. I'm so excited to be bringing you these reports on behalf of the good folks at Fiberworks Marine Collision, doing great work at a good price. When good enough just isn't good enough. Now this week we've come to Little Marine Creek Lake, located just north of downtown Fort Worth, adjacent to the community college campus. This is a small lake that's very popular with kayakers due to its diminutive size, but also popular with the bass anglers due to the giant fish it produces. Back in January, Marine Creek gave up a 14.57 pound bass to be the first entry in the 2019 Sharolunker program. Now the two things you want to know about this lake: its features are pretty much shoreline vegetation and reeds or offshore underwater structure. You can fish those reeds with your standard moving baits like your traps, your Senkos, and your spinner baits, or you can graph the lake and find that underwater structure. It is again a small lake, so it won't take you long. Once you've found the structure, fish it with your deeper baits. You can use Texas rigs, jigs, drop shots, Carolina rigs, or even deep diving crankbaits. The first Sharolunker this year was caught on a suspending jerkbait, so you might want to try that too. Give Marine Creek a shot. Who knows, you may be Texas's next Sharolunker participant. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by the good folks at Fiberworks. When good enough just isn't good enough. And remember, check us out on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
Hi, I'm Captain Joey Ferry with your South Texas Region Report, brought to you by Waypoint Marine, Waterloo Rods, Roy's Bait and Tackle, and Marker 37 Marina, right here on the Intercoastal, the gateway to Laguna Madre and Baffin Bay. Folks, we're hovering between 55 and 70 degree water temperatures, and the bay is about to explode. We've got really good trout fishing up here in the upper Laguna Madre, with numbers of fish really hanging in 4 to 6 feet of water, as well as in the Intercoastal. Now we're using soft plastics out in the flats in 3 to 4 feet. I'm using a smaller jig head, 1/16 to 1/8 ounce on a soft plastic. The really big news is that our black drum are flowing in with those spring tides, and we are approaching the real peak of the monster drum season. These are black drum, and they range between 15 and 50 inches and about 50 pounds. You can really score some huge fish on light tackle this time of year, all the way to mid-April. We use live shrimp, dead shrimp, crab, and sea lice along the Intercoastal Canal. You can really bring your boat down here to the JFK Causeway in Corpus Christi, launch. The 15 to 30 inchers are really some of the best eating fish we have here on the Texas coast. So come on down, enjoy some spring break action, and get on some fish. See you next time.
They are just swarming. They're low, they're high, they're everywhere in between. And right on cue, there is one. There he is in that clear water. Come in here, buddy. All right. Well, that just shows you that it works. They're here. Not a big one. You know, it's unbelievable. The giant schools of these fish. We just see them all over the graph. Look right here on my graph. I mean, they are just swarming. They're low, they're high, they're everywhere in between. There's just lots of fish down there. In fact, that's really not that great right now. It was nearly completely blacked out a while ago. So these fish come up here in swarms, just big, thousands in schools, getting ready to move up the river. Now they stay deep this time of the year. It's not unusual. I caught that fish in 50 feet of water and my bait was down about 40 feet. And so they'll be really deep before they go really shallow to spawn, and we'll talk some more about that in just a minute.
Hey friends, Captain Kevin Broussard here with your Fox Sports Outdoor Report. We're going to talk Louisiana. I tell you what, fresh and saltwater. I want to thank y'all for tuning in again this year. I tell you what, we're going to have lots of great reports each and every week for you. Right now, we're going to keep it kind of short and get right to the point. Toledo Bend action. I tell you what, we're in the springtime pattern. Some fish getting caught on the beds, some other fish getting caught on wacky worms in 6 to 10 foot of water. Tell you what, the saltwater side of things down here on Lake Calcasieu, when the weather's right and the winds aren't too bad, lots of speckled trout getting caught. Soft plastics on Rockport Rattler jig head seems to be the key there. And I tell you what, if you want some redfish, get up in that shallow water, throw you a gold spoon or a spinnerbait, and I tell you what, it seems to be working great. I want y'all to tune in each and every week right here on Fox Sports for old Cajun Phil and Captain Kevin Broussard, as we're going to be bringing you the fishing reports from Louisiana. Happy fishing, may God bless. See you next week.
Lift it. They usually get it on the lift like that. There we go. All right, there's another one. You notice one thing we're doing today here on Canyon Lake is up here in the upper end of the lake, we're following the river channel. You want to follow the actual river bed, the channel of the river where it really falls off into the deepest parts. These fish are going to use that as a migration route. So actually you can see right now we're near the shore. We're not far off the shore, but this channel actually makes a swing in here, hits that shore, and actually if we pan out you can see behind us we're still kind of in the mouth of the river. It's still pretty wide right here. As soon as a couple of factors hit, and I'll tell you what those are next, these fish are going to hightail it straight up that river, and they're going to do the same thing in a reservoir that's fed by a major river system near you. Coosa River, Tennessee River, really any of those rivers over in the southeast or even here in the southwest.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Lou's. Feel the difference. Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland, the best in bass and crappie lures, heads to tails. Glacier Glove. Stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Balls Out. Made in the USA. Heavy-duty mounts for your fish finders.
All right, well, I tell you, we've caught a bunch. I've probably weeded through 50 or 60 of these already. Got it. There we go. Come up here. All right, well, I tell you, we've caught a bunch. I've probably weeded through 50 or 60 of these already in the last hour and a half or so. Once you get in these and you find these schools, they're just thick in here. I told you that I would mention the two factors that are going to go ahead and pull these white bass up the river into shallow water and actually spawn, and that's water temperature and current. As the water temperature warms in the spring, the sun gets on the water and that surface layer, the top 6 feet of water, really begins to warm up. That's going to pull them. And then current. Anytime you get a little bit of rain or a release of water from a dam and it comes down the river, any of that current in the river, those two factors, warming water, current, instinctively pull those white bass up to that shallow water. They'll go way up the rivers. They'll get right next to the bank and they'll go ahead and lay their eggs. The males will go first, the females follow. The females will freeze spray their eggs in the current, and then those eggs have a sticky substance on them that'll attach themselves to the rocks and the sand and logs and anything in the river. Then the males will come and fertilize those eggs, and you'll have a huge spawn of white bass up the rivers all over the southern part of the United States. It's a really neat process and a lot of fun to catch them this time of the year. It's a little tricky in the pre-spawn right now when they actually spawn up the river, and we'll do a show on the spawning and show you what that's like when they actually move up the river. But this is the precursor to that. Can be a lot of fun. A little tricky how to catch them like this, but you can do it.
Hey, welcome back to Sooner Beat and Fox Sports Outdoors. I've missed you guys, and I'm looking forward to fishing with you again here in 2019. Well, this crazy Oklahoma weather has had a lot of the bass fishermen in recent weeks pulling out their umbrellas. Not the kind you use over your head to protect you from the rain, but the kind you throw with lots of baits on it. A wire form like this, funny looking contraption, jig head on a swivel at the end of it, and typically a swim type bait on that jig head, mostly in shad colors or in pearl white colors. They're fishing it around the deeper, clearer water into the lake, mostly by the dam section. That's exactly what Brady Coyle did recently at Grand Lake to catch this beautiful largemouth you see here. He said the key to the bite on the day he was there was slow, slow, slow. Not uncommon for cold water fishing in Oklahoma, but remember that as you get out this next time. Crappie fishing is good across the state, several areas. Consistent reports coming in. Grand Lake, 20 to 30 feet deep. Brush piles, break lines, and under the deeper docks. Also consistent reports coming in from Kaw, about 16 to 18 feet, again close to those channels. And then out in open water areas like Okmulgee and Skytook, look for those big schools of shad out in the channels. They can be anywhere from 15 to 30 foot deep right now, but bait fish is the key to it. Find the bait fish, you can find the crappie, get that jig right down there where they are or just above them, and you can catch them. But you can't catch them if you don't go.
Another one. These fish have all been about the same size. They're not what I would call big white bass. There we go. It's been a lot of fun, and it's steady, non-stop action, one right after the next. That's a male, headed up to do his thing. Well, let me mention a couple of things here. I want to re-emphasize that this technique, what we're doing, this pre-spawn white bass fishing, will work all across the South. Any reservoir, any river system that's got white bass in it, this technique will work. Find them the same way, catch them the same way before they spawn. In this particular lake, this is not one of the lakes in Texas that's got some of the biggest white bass in it. They're just average size white bass, good eating. You can keep a whole bunch of them, take them home, fillet them, bring the kids out, have a great time doing this. I want to mention also, I'm rolling in some footage here of some stripers that I caught here. I did do a little striper fishing yesterday. Just went and did a little scouting around, found some fish schooling on top actually, and wound up catching several stripers. Now, again, I'll mention the stripers in Canyon Lake are not great big ones. The food system here is just not great. It's a real clear lake. The lower end of the food chain, the plankton that the low end little bitty minnows and all the forage fish feed on is just not really here, and so the fish don't grow big here, but there's a ton of stripers in here. And if you want to book a guide trip to this particular lake, you can contact my buddy Captain Steve Nixon. Just want to catch something and you want to have something to take home for the freezer and for the frying pan, Canyon Lake would be a good destination for you. You can contact Captain Steve at the information you see there on your screen. Go catch you some white bass. It's going to do nothing but get better through the rest of the spring.
You can always watch our latest episode on the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Catch up on past episodes and learn about fishing techniques and new gear at our how-to page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for new fishing videos every day. Simply search for Fox Sports Outdoors and click the like button on Facebook and the follow button on Twitter. And watch a new episode every week on any device by downloading the free Waypoint TV app on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Motor Guide's wireless and easy-to-use XI3, Waypoint Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist, Strike King, Taiwan Han, and Tracker Boats, America's best-selling fishing boats.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to your Ask the Pro question for this week. Justin wants to know, does catching a spawning bass off the bed hurt its ability to spawn? For an answer, we asked the 2016 Bassmaster Classic champion, Edwin Evers.
Hey, the question is, does it affect a spawning bass when you catch a spawning bass off the bed, weigh it in, then release it? It's absolutely not. It's been proven. There's documentation those fish go right back and spawn. They may not swim all the way back to that specific spot, but there's been bodies of water that those fish will actually spawn on the next moon cycle a lot later in the year than you actually think. And I've actually had some tournament strategies catching spawning fish all the way up in June down in Texas that were spawning, and it's fish that were weighed in there at a release site. So no, it doesn't have any effect. As long as you protect the fish and the fish lives, he's going to take off and spawn again. And that's one thing about a bass. They don't just spawn once. So many people think, man, you just caught that fish off that bed and all its eggs are right there. Those bass, we have learned through the years, they spawn multiple times, not just one time.
Thank you, Edwin. If you want some help from one of the pros, simply go to foxsportsoutdoors.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now it's time to find out who wins this week's Big Catch of the Week.
We're back at the boat ramp, and every week we pick somebody's big fish photo to get their 15 seconds of fame on television on the Big Catch of the Week contest. I'll tell you how to send in your photo in just a second, but first, here's this week's winner. He is Jerry Varant of Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a 42-pound striped bass he caught in the lower Illinois River in Oklahoma. And as a bonus, here's Rusty Appleton of Oklahoma City with an 18-pound striper he also caught in the lower Illinois. If you'd like to be our winner, just go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click on the Big Catch area on the right side of the front page, follow the instructions to send in your big fish photo. Next up, here's some of the gear that we used to catch the white bass dead sticking with this technique we used on this week's show. It begins with the best spinning outfit that Lew's has ever introduced to the market. This is the Team Lew's Custom Pro Speed Stick Rod and the Team Lew's Custom Pro Spinning Reel. This is a 2000 size reel, perfectly matched combo. Again, the best, smoothest, highest end spinning rod and reel that Lew's has introduced to the market. I had it spooled up with 10-pound test fluorocarbon line, and then here's the little dead sticking bait I used. This is a 1/4 ounce lead jig head, and on the back of that is a Bobby Garland slab slayer, and it's the big one in a 3-inch size. I love the chartreuse and pearl clear fluorescent color. Who is Rick Moranis? You might not recognize the name, but you will when I tell you the movies he starred in. He starred in Ghostbusters in 1984, Little Shop of Horrors in 1986, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989. But in 1991, life dealt him a very tragic blow when his wife passed away from cancer, leaving him the single father of 4 kids. Rick Moranis did something very unusual. He walked away from his career to be a full-time dad. He wrote this: 90% of success is just being there. When my kids came home, there was music and lights were on and there were great smells coming out of the kitchen. It was a joyful place to be, and that's what I wanted. In my opinion, Rick Moranis did something heroic. He left fame, fortune, and power at the height of his success for the more important role of being a dad. And if Rick can do that, you can do something just as heroic in your world, in your family. And one last time, if you'd like to book your own guide trip here to Canyon Lake to catch stripers and white bass, you can contact Captain Steve Nixon at the information you see on your screen. There's his website, telephone number. Get in touch with him. Come on down to Canyon Lake and have some fun. Hey, thanks for joining us for this week's episode. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Barry Stokes saying be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.